Rome. Winter camp, somewhere near the Danube. A general rides into Marcus Aurelius's tent with news that a rival commander, a man he has never liked, just won a battle that should have been his. The soldiers outside are already talking, comparing, whispering about who the real hero of this campaign is going to be. And Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the single most powerful man alive at that moment in history, does something almost nobody in his position would do. He picks up his pen, and he writes himself a reminder. Not about how to beat that rival, not about how to make sure history remembers him as the better man. He writes about how to stop caring who wins that particular game at all. If you came here because you saw the title, and you are wondering whether this is actually going to tell you what Marcus Aurelius would say to you, the entrepreneur, staring at a competitor who just raised more money, hired faster, or landed the client you wanted, here is your answer. Yes, that is exactly where we are going. And by the time this video is over, you are going to see competition in a way that most founders never let themselves see it, because it is going to cost you something to admit it. Here is the part nobody tells you when you start a company. The moment you launch anything worth building, you stop competing against a market. You start competing against your own nervous system. You check their pricing page at 11 at night. You refresh their social media after telling yourself you would not. You see their funding announcement, and your stomach drops before your brain even finishes reading the number. None of that is weakness. It is wiring. Humans have spent 200,000 years ranking themselves against the tribe next door. And your brain has not caught up to the fact that the tribe next door is now a Series A press release on your phone screen at midnight. Marcus Aurelius never had a competitor's Instagram to doom scroll, but he had something almost identical in effect. He had senators plotting behind his back, generals angling for his job, and an entire empire's worth of people constantly comparing themselves to him and to each other. He watched ambition eat people alive from the inside, long before it ever touched their actual circumstances. And what he wrote down, in the middle of all that, is still the sharpest thing anyone has ever said about rivalry. He wrote that a person's worth is measured by the worth of the things he cares about. Read that again slowly, because it is not a nice quote to hang on a wall. It is a diagnosis. If your sense of worth is tied to being ahead of someone else, you have handed that person control over how you feel about your own life. Every morning, before you have made a single decision of your own, your mood already depends on what they did the day before. That is not competition. That is a leash. And most founders are wearing it without ever noticing the collar. Here is where it actually gets uncomfortable, because this next part is going to sound like it is letting your competitor win. Stay with it anyway. The Stoics drew one dividing line through everything in life. And it is the same line you need to draw through your business today. Some things are within your control. Everything else is not. Your competitor's funding is not in your control. Their marketing budget is not in your control. Whether they get written up in a magazine you have been trying to get into for a year is not in your control. You can spend your entire career fighting a war on that territory, and you will lose every single time. Not because you are not good enough, but because you were never fighting on ground that belonged to you in the first place. What belongs to you is smaller, and it is also the only thing that has ever actually built anything worth building. Your product, your standards, the quality of the work you ship this week, how honestly you treat your customers when something breaks, whether you show up tomorrow with the same discipline you had today, regardless of what your competitor's growth chart looks like. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire under constant threat from rivals inside his own government, and he still managed to write, in the privacy of his own journal, that he had no time to waste on wondering what other men were doing wrong, because his own life demanded his full attention. Not because he did not notice what others were doing. He noticed everything. Emperors who do not notice threats do not stay emperors for long. He noticed, and then he redirected every ounce of that attention back onto the one thing he actually controlled, himself. That redirection is not passivity. It is the most aggressive move available to you as a founder, because while your competitor is busy performing success for an audience, you get to spend that same energy actually building something real. There is a specific mental shift Marcus Aurelius used to make this practical, not just poetic. And it changes how you will look at every competitor update you see for the rest of your career. But before we get into it, I want to know you are actually with me on this, because what comes next is going to ask you to give up something most founders are addicted to. The shift Marcus Aurelius used is deceptively simple, and once you actually apply it to your business, you will not be able to unsee it. He called it looking at the whole, not the fragment. Every time envy or rivalry showed up in his mind, he trained himself to zoom out and look at the entire arc of a person's life, not just the single moment that was currently bothering him. A general winning one battle is not a general winning the war. A senator gaining favor this month is not a senator who will still have that favor in 5 years. He understood something most people never sit still long enough to notice. You are comparing your entire, ongoing, unfinished story against someone else's highlight reel, and highlight reels always win, because that is the only thing they were built to show you. Apply that to your last bad week. Your competitor posted a big announcement. New funding, new hire, new feature launch, whatever it was. You saw one frame of their story. One carefully chosen frame, usually built by a marketing team whose entire job is to make that frame look as impressive as possible. You did not see their churn numbers. You did not see the co-founder argument that happened the night before the announcement went out. You did not see the 3 failed versions of that feature sitting in their internal graveyard. You saw the trophy, not the years of misses that came before it, and definitely not the ones still coming after it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that everything you see will soon be altered and will cease to exist. He was not being poetic about death for its own sake. He was reminding himself that the snapshot in front of him, the thing making him anxious right now, was never the whole picture, and it would not even stay the same picture for very long. Businesses that look unstoppable today have a habit of quietly folding in 3 years. You do not need to wish that on anyone. You just need to remember it, so that a single triumphant post does not get to rewrite your entire sense of where you stand. Here is the part that actually separates founders who last from founders who burn out chasing a rival they will never catch. Because the rival keeps moving the finish line without even trying to. Envy has a very specific shape, and once you learn to recognize that shape, it loses most of its power over you. Envy is never really about the object. It is never actually about their funding round or their feature or their headline. It is about what you think that object means about you. If they got funded and you did not, the real sentence running underneath your reaction is usually something like, maybe I am not good enough. Maybe I am behind. Maybe I am running out of time. The competitor is just the trigger. The wound is something you were already carrying before they ever showed up on your screen. Marcus Aurelius understood that the mind assigns meaning, and meaning is always a choice, even when it does not feel like one. A notification about a rival's success is, stripped down to what it actually is, just information. Neutral information. It becomes a threat, a judgment, a verdict on your own worth. Only in the half second after your mind interprets it that way, almost always without asking your permission first. Catch that half second, and the entire event loses its grip on you. Miss it, and you will spend the rest of your day rebuilding a business decision around a feeling that was never based on anything real to begin with. This is not a call to stop paying attention to your market. Founders who ignore their competitors entirely usually get blindsided by them, eventually. This is something sharper and more useful than ignoring anyone. It is the difference between watching your competitors to learn and watching your competitors to measure your own worth. One of those makes you better at your job. The other one slowly convinces you that you are always, no matter what you build, one step behind someone else, forever. Think about the founders you actually respect. The ones who seem to build for decades without falling apart every time someone else has a good quarter. Almost none of them got there by refusing to look at their competition. They got there by changing what they let that competition mean. A rival's win became data, not a verdict. A rival's failure became a lesson, not a reason to feel superior for an afternoon. Neither one got to decide how they felt about their own work, because they had already decided that for themselves, long before the news ever reached them. That is the actual discipline hiding underneath everything Marcus Aurelius wrote about rivals and ambition, and it is a discipline you can start practicing today, with the very next competitor update that shows up in your feed. There is one more layer to this, though, and it might be the most uncomfortable one, because it is not about how you react to your competitors at all. It is about what happens the moment you actually start winning, and whether you can survive that version of yourself without becoming exactly the kind of founder you used to resent. Here is the moment nobody warns you about. The day you actually win. Your product finally outsells theirs. Your name gets mentioned before theirs does. Someone forwards you an email where a customer chose you over the competitor you used to lose sleep over. And for about 10 minutes, it feels incredible. Then something quieter happens, and this is the part that decides who you become for the next decade. You start checking their numbers again. Except now you are checking to make sure you are still ahead, not to see if you have caught up. Same behavior, opposite motive, identical leash. Marcus Aurelius watched this exact pattern destroy men his entire life. Generals who fought for years to reach the top, and the second they got there, spent the rest of their lives terrified of losing it. He wrote that ambition, once satisfied, does not disappear. It just finds a new target, unless you deal with the root of it directly. Winning was never going to fix what losing never actually broke. The anxiety was never really about the scoreboard. It was about needing the scoreboard to tell you who you are. This is where you get to make a different choice than almost every founder who came before you. Not by refusing to compete. Refusing to compete in business usually just means going out of business slower. The different choice is deciding, right now, before the next milestone hits, what your work is actually for. If it is for beating a specific person, you will never be finished. Because there will always be another person one step ahead in some direction you had not thought to measure yet. If it is for building something you would still be proud of even if no one was watching your competitors' numbers at all, you get to actually finish a day's work and feel something real about it. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire, buried people he loved, fought wars he did not choose, and still managed to write, near the end of his life, that a person's true value is set entirely by the things they choose to pursue, not by what anyone else pursued, not by who was ahead when the page ended. He never got to read history's verdict on his reign. He wrote for the version of himself that had to get up the next morning, regardless of what the verdict would be. That is the version of you this channel is built for. The founder, still standing, still building, still deciding what the work means on your own terms, long after the notification about your competitor has stopped mattering. If this changed how you think about the person you keep comparing yourself to, tell us in the comments who that person has been for you. And if you want more of this, straight from the Stoics, built for people actually building something, stick around. Subscribe to Stoic Founder, share this with a founder who needs to hear it, and we will see you in the next one.